But everybody in South Africa is paying tax. They don't pay tax.
How do we know for a fact that they're not paying tax?
He's trying to confuse you. Leave these people, man. That people.
I'm just asking.
You must be ashamed of yourself as a South African. I'm ashamed of you asking such.
Fair enough.
Those police know the truth. So don't try us. Go to hell.
I thought I was gonna get smacked.
Comrades, we did it! After decades of trying, we have finally achieved something that some of the greatest leaders in this continent could only dream of. We have finally united Africa.
Technically, we've united Africa against South Africa.
Hey man, a win is a win. The entire continent is finally speaking with one voice, and that voice is saying, yo, South Africa, what's wrong with you people?
Protesters in South Africa have been saying, Makwere kwere abahambe. Makwere kwere is a derogatory term for foreigners.
About 270 Nigerians living in South Africa are set to return home tonight due to ongoing protests over undocumented foreign nationals.
Criminal actions are perpetuated on our citizens. The police refuse to do anything.
Political parties, activist groups, and social media campaigns are increasingly framing migrants as the cause of South Africa's biggest problems.
And for someone to come from a foreign country, South Africa is now mine.
The question isn't whether South Africa should manage immigration. Of course it should. The question is whether migrants are actually responsible and whether the political parties are using them as a scapegoat ahead of the 2026 government elections.
Xenophobia is a highly profitable industry. Keep asking the questions that are going to get you beat up.
Let's get away. Before we go any further, let's acknowledge something. South Africans have every right to be angry. I'm talking real angry. Fucking angry.
We fought this country. We are going now to the second phase of struggle. Because the ANC disappoint us.
What are we doing here?
Applications for schools in the Western Cape was open. At 1 a.m. in the morning, I was up applying for my child.
So we were told, and she was told, that the schools are full for next year. Now, how's that possible? The registration day only started today.
We wouldn't be here today if the government were actually doing their jobs.
Government is failing everywhere, and we are struggling.
We know the root cause of this problem is not the illegal foreigners. It's our corrupt government that is rotten to the core.
Pause there for a second. He just told me on camera that the government is the root cause. And he's still here marching against foreigners. That's not a contradiction to him. That's the whole trick.
So much marching against illegal foreigners.
Who is more guilty here, the foreigners or the government?
Both.
Over the last few years, we've seen a rise in organized anti-migrant movements. Operation Doula, March and March, groups arguing that undocumented migrants are responsible for South Africans' hardship. No jobs?
Malawens?
An overburdened public health system.
Definitely Zimbabweans.
Don't need them here. Away.
Crime.
Mozambicans.
Away with criminal offenses. That cannot be traceable. Away.
Dwellums.
Definitely Nigerians.
Away with the drugs. Away.
They set a deadline of 30 June for undocumented people to leave the country.
This is a date that is issued in order to encourage illegal immigrants themselves to deport themselves.
We've got enough real deadlines in this country, comrades. We really don't need the fake ones too.
Jacinta leads one of the newest players in the space, March and March, which presents itself as a civic movement defending South African interests against illegal immigration.
We are being invaded by every single country, and they're building up countries for themselves in our country.
Now we're cooking, because every moral panic needs a star, and this is only the finest, most homegrown South African bigotry. Chef's kiss. Mwah.
It looks like cultish political leader sort of adoration. It's getting weird.
Leaders claim the movement is peaceful and that the media is misrepresenting them.
March and March marches are peaceful marches. I would like you media to also post that.
A few moments later.
You are shaming me.
Broke everything. You see, like my t-shirt is broken. It's fine.
Comrades, Chester Missing has never taken a South African job. Chester Missing doesn't have hands.
And in the same week, South Africans were watching news reports of fatal xenophobic violence in other parts of the country.
So either Jacinta hasn't watched the news, or she's hoping you haven't.
And honestly, none of this is new. In 2008, South Africa saw the first of several waves of xenophobic violence. 62 people were killed, and 21 of them were South Africans who were either mistaken for migrants or caught up in the violence.
And there's your first problem with the whole plan. How exactly do you identify a foreigner?
About 11% of South Africans are undocumented. There's about 6 million people. How do we tell between an undocumented South African and undocumented Zimbabwean?
Yes, African people look like African people. You know, people with dark skin and dark hair and that type of stuff.
Millions of South Africans that are not documented. How are we going to tell if somebody is a Zimbabwean or a South African?
Oh, honey, you know you can clearly tell as well. You clearly see it. You want me to say it? But
Yeah, say it.
as well. You know it very well. You can see them even with their heads.
How do we tell which one is illegal and which one is legal?
That is...
You see the problem?
So the master plan, as far as I can tell, goes: step 1, identify the foreigners. Step 2, accidentally identify South Africans. Step 3, pretend the system works anyway.
We wanted to understand what all of this language actually feels like from the other side. So we spoke to Fola, born in Nigeria, raised in South Africa since he was 4 years old.
All I've known is South Africa. There was at no point where I decided I want to stay in this country. It was this is my country and this is where I grew up. In 2012, when I applied with my study permit, so there was no communication for years and years. I feel like my application is actually lost in Home Affairs.
14 years, one unresolved application, not because he broke the law, because nobody ever replied.
I want to say that the Home Affairs system is extremely ineffective and it's ruining innocent people's lives.
Fola's experience is far from unique, and that makes simple slogans like "just enforce the rule of law" a lot more complicated.
Of course, there are immigration laws, there are asylum laws, and they deserve to be enforced. But is the problem that somebody is here selling tomatoes? Is it worth the government spending their time chasing that person off the street instead of chasing a murderer or investigating even a labor exploitation event? That is a rule of law that has to apply to everyone. Operation Doula, stopping immigrants from accessing health care. They are breaking a constitutional principle, and yet what they say is that they are promoting the law. They are taking the law not into their own hands, but rather making law in their own image.
At the march, protesters told us undocumented migrants were taking education, healthcare, and jobs. They took our jobs! And causing all the crime.
We are trying to escape the townships because of the crime that is happening because of these illegal immigrants.
Let's actually investigate the claims, because maybe there's a continental WhatsApp group called Operation Break South Africa.
Let's be fair. Migration does create real challenges, and some employers do exploit undocumented workers, paying below the minimum wage to undercut labor protections. The question is scale and proportionality. So let's bust some myths.
Immigrants make up less than 4% of the South African population, and that share is going down, while our deportations are going up.
A 2018 World Bank study found that for every employed migrant, an average of 2 jobs are created for South Africans.
So the person giving jobs is somehow the job thief?
Prison statistics don't support the idea that migrants are responsible for most crime, with undocumented inmates accounting for only 2%.
So criminals are committing crime? Groundbreaking stuff.
What about public health? At one hospital in Tembisa, 2 billion rand was allegedly stolen through corruption.
And that wasn't a migrant, that was South Africans helping themselves.
You're seeing right now on your screen the 3 luxury vehicles, the Lamborghinis, that have now been seized.
And in 2025, only 39 of South Africa's 257 municipalities received a clean audit.
In 2 words, corruption and incompetence.
You know what I've never seen once in those reports? The municipality collapsed due to excessive exposure to Zimbabweans. Here's my favorite question. Who's actually benefiting from all of this? Whenever somebody points at a problem, I immediately look behind them, because sometimes the finger is a lot more interesting than whatever it's pointing at.
We are here allowing international criminal elements to come and take over our country.
The devil sent other devils here to this country to come and take the jobs of South Africans.
Johannesburg is being held at ransom by criminals who are illegal foreigners in this country.
There's been a race to the bottom among all of the parties where everyone is trying to show that they are strong or stronger on immigration.
And Minister Leon Schreiber's knockoff ice raid commercial is not exactly helping either.
Home Affairs launched Operation New Brew. The 25 arrests this morning are just the beginning, using technology to identify, arrest, convict and deport illegal immigrants.
For some reason, the music in this ad makes me want to go to Builder's Warehouse.
This kind of rhetoric is horrible. It's something which almost presents a kind of Rambo-like figures defending the country from an invasion, when in fact what they're doing is actually diverting us from the issues we should be paying attention to.
Even Cupcake has joined the chat.
Illegal immigration continues to pose a risk to our security, our stability and economic progress.
This is a convenient way of offering a false solution to South Africa's very real problems without having to take responsibility.
With local elections months away, this playbook sounds very familiar.
We will make America great again. Make Brazil great again.
South Africa will be great again. It just needs all of us to rise and defeat our enemy.
March and March sounds enormous. Like millions of people marching, like a political tidal wave.
But online reach and real support are very different things. Data scientist Kyle Findlay analyzed 4 million tweets and found signs of a paid influence campaign.
When you run an information operation, you don't have to convince the entire population. You get the media to cover the narrative in an uncritical way. Whereas the reality is that all of this is manufactured.
Comrades, we're in the middle of the march. There is still more journalists than there is protesters. It feels like somebody did not pay for the bus. It feels like it hasn't cleared yet. That money is going to arrive on the 18th.
Jacinta is not a suffering poor person. She is using this for publicity, for influence, for pay. The other people with her are staying in nice hotels as they travel around. There's money, there's interests.
No one has found the money, but Daily Maverick tied a prominent anti-immigration activist to Russian nuclear interests. News 24 reported that crime intelligence believes a KZN traditional leader in the construction mafia was using March and March as leverage against his own criminal exposure. And Amabungane found company records linking its leaders to former President Jacob Zuma.
Again?
The big lesson that we learned from 2008 is that xenophobia is a highly profitable industry. Xenophobic violence gets you political power, it gets you economic power. And as long as that is the case, it's going to continue.
So, what can we do about all of this? Government needs to process documentation faster, reduce corruption, improve border management, and prosecute employers who exploit undocumented workers, rather than going after the workers themselves.
If those conditions are being met, employers will stop hiring foreigners, because they'll have to pay them as much as South Africans. So why not get a South African? Why not comply with the law? No country in the world can control a 5,000-kilometer border. That border is longer than the US border with Mexico. South Africa is not going to manage either.
Landau's other recommendation is accountability.
The state failure has also allowed these groups, when they do commit violence, to go unpunished. When we talk about enforcing the rule of law, restoring sovereignty by controlling the borders, the real issue is South Africa has lost sovereignty of its own townships.
And government, do government things. Fix the lights, grow the economy, fix municipalities. I don't know, I'm just a comedian pretending to be a journalist.
South Africans are genuinely beautiful and amazing people. Genuinely. It's just the administrative process. Because you'll always be treated a bit differently.
So the people generally are fine. It's the institutions that are broken.
In the name, South Africa is Africa. There's no Africa without South Africa. And there's no South Africa without the rest of Africa. Because that is the kind of continent that we have. And I think that's the type of relationship we should be growing.
Nobody benefits when poor people fight other poor people. Not South Africans, not migrants, not communities.
But there are people who benefit a great deal when public anger gets redirected away from corruption, away from governance failures, and away from accountability.
My take is I can feel the spirit of Jacinta all over me. And right now, I want all foreigners to go. I don't even care anymore whether they're documented or undocumented. Everybody just go. Like, you know what? Just go. I don't have my ID book right now, but I promise you I've got one. My license is expired, but that doesn't count. Aweh, until next time. Comrades, we're at Sea Point at the promenade. What are we here for? We're here for March and March, the protest against illegal foreigners or just black foreigners. Not the ones who own Sea Point. No, not those ones. We love those ones. We just don't love the black ones. Aweh.